Hello again, fourth grade, and welcome to lesson 3-8. We're going to be working on making models with math and how we model our answers when we're working in math.
How can you represent a situation with a math model? Think about this question during the lesson. An art show uses 9 teams of art judges. If each team critiques the work of 13 painters and 14 sculptors, how many artists attend the show? How many teams of judges are at the show? Think, what do you need to find?
So let's stop and think and look at our question. It says our art show has 9 teams of judges. If each team critiques the work of 13 painters and 14 sculptors, how many artists attend the show? So that's our first question. So first we need to figure out how many artists there are. So we need to put together our 13 painters and 14 sculptors. The next question asks how many teams of judges are at the show? So that's already answered in our question. And we need to stop and think, what are the steps, the things that we need to find out? So we knew that our hidden question, first we needed to figure out how many artists were there altogether before we could move forward and solve.
There are 9 teams of judges at the show. You need to find how many artists each team judged. Then you need to find the total number of artists. Which part of the bar diagram represents the total number of painters and sculptors each team of judges reviewed?
Select your answer.
In the bar diagram, T represents the total number of painters and sculptors each team of judges reviewed. What equation represents the bar diagram? The equation T equals 13 plus 14 represents the bar diagram. Each team judged 27 artists. Think, how can I model with math? I can use bar diagrams and equations to represent and solve this problem. Decide if my results make sense. Why is drawing a bar diagram useful?
So when we use a bar diagram, it helps us to visualize or to see the numbers that we're working with and see the equation in a different format.
A bar diagram shows how the quantities in a problem are related and helps you write an equation. Here's my thinking. Find 9 times 27. Use a bar diagram. Write and solve an equation. Which equation can you use to find the number of artists?
Select your answer.
As shown in the bar diagram, there are 9 equal groups of 27. So multiplication is used to find the answer. There are 243 artists at the show. Now you know how you can represent a situation with a math model.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our notes before we jump into our guided practice questions for this lesson. So for 3-8, modeling with math, we know that we can use a bar diagram to show our equations. We know that we can stack and solve those equations afterwards, and that'll help us decide if our answer is reasonable. So for this example, we have 4 times 32. In order to draw a bar diagram, I make my 4 boxes because I have 4 groups, and I have 32 in each group. And then my number that's going to be on top is the answer that I get after I solve. So I stacked and multiplied. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. So I found out that my answer to 4 times 32 is 128. And that's what I put here on top. Now let's jump into our guided practice for this lesson. Our first guided practice question says Sharon's stationery store contains 1,219 boxes of cards. May's Market contains 3 times as many boxes of cards. How many boxes B does Mary's Market contain? So number 1 says explain how to use a picture to represent the problem and show the relationship. So let's go ahead and answer this together. I can draw a bar diagram. To represent the equation 3 times 1,219. (1,219) is the number of card boxes. Oops. I need to make 3 groups. Find out how many card boxes are in May's Market or at. Okay, so that was number 1. Number 2, what equation can you write to represent the problem? So number 1, they just asked us to explain. So they gave us a question, they asked us explain the relationship. For number 2, we're going to write the equation. So we know that 1,219 times 3 is going to equal our variable B, because that's what they told us in the question. How many boxes B does May's Market contain? And for number 3, it says, what is the solution to the problem? So I'm going to go ahead and draw my bar diagram. It's equal to something. So I'm going to stack and multiply over here. 1,219 times 3. Stacking in place value order, 1s on top of 1s. 9 times 3 is 27, so I'm going to put my 7 and carry my 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 more is 5. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. So I know my answer here is 3,657. I'm going to write out my answer. Remember, we don't just put the number form, we write the word form as well. There are 3,657 card boxes at May's Market. All right, that takes us to the end of our very short lesson today. 4th grade, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.